This episode of Killers, Cults and Queens is not advised for listeners under the age of 18. Please proceed with caution. I'm Nikki Juice.
And I'm Cheryl.
And this is Killers, Cults and Queens,
the podcast where we journey to the spookiest, scariest, and downright weirdest corners of the world.
Today, we're hovering over the Brooklyn Bridge and picking up with Linda Napolitano.
She's been abducted again?
Double abduction.
Linda, you can't catch a break.
I don't know about this one. I really don't.
I don't know where I thought this story was going, but I didn't have Linda being a government guinea pig. Well, there's always a good cop, bad cop.
And in this case, the bad cop is really bad.
This is my supper. It's a sea bass. Oh.
Are you ready?
Ah, yes.
Imagine having seen one of the most terrifying things ever and not being able to tell anyone about it. The only person you can talk to is the other eyewitness who was there that night, but you both decide you can't stay silent any longer and you need to reach out to see if the person you watched floating above the Brooklyn Bridge one night is okay. Welcome to Killers, Cults and Queens. But before we dive into today's case, have you had any visitations from little alien babies?
No visits, unfortunately, as much as we want the visits. I think they know how bad we want it. We're not going to give it to them. We're going to get them when they least expect it.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I feel like if I was to meet an alien, I would be terrified. Because they are
1000%.
pretty creepy looking. But it depends on their intention, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If it turns out that they want to be nice and be friends with you, then great. But no thank you.
Oh.
Now, the last time we learned all about Linda Napolitano and her abduction story. Now, we don't know at this stage if these are aliens, because we're kind of assuming that they are, but how are you feeling about all of this? Are you thinking that this is something that is, just a nightmare, or are you thinking that it's something a bit more credible?
I want to say it is credible. I want to believe. I do believe. But there is obviously going to be naysayers out there that say, look, it was just a nightmare, a hallucination, a very vivid dream that is just haunting her now at this point. So I never want to discredit anybody's experiences in life. I want to believe that this could have happened to her, but the image of her being so skinny that she slips through a window and metal bars and is just hovering above the river in her Puna nightgown, it's something.
Yeah, it is definitely something, isn't it? Yeah. She wasn't allowed to make any noise. Couldn't move.
And if you're not watching this episode, you just missed out on 10 seconds of pure genius from me.
Yes, visual comedy, that was. That was definitely visual comedy. Beam me up right now. So now we've got that settled, we just want to thank our sponsor of this series, it's Snag. If you want amazing clothing, which is comfy, reasonably priced and great quality, head to snagtights.com. Now, it's time to get yourself ready. If you thought that the first part of this story was wild, wait until you hear part 2. But here's a content warning. There is a mention of attempted sexual assault in this case, so please be mindful if that is a trigger for you and check out a lighter episode instead. But if you're ready, let's set the scene.
Okie dokie.
It's January 1990, and in an office in Manhattan, a ufologist is carrying out a hypnosis session on a woman who keeps recanting details of lost memories. These memories are shocking. They reveal details of an abduction in which she floated out of her apartment through a locked window covered in iron bars. She floated high above Lower Manhattan and hung in the sky above the Brooklyn Bridge. Little did she realise, she was being watched. Not just by the beings drawing her into their ship, but by many people on the ground below. One person viewing her hanging motionless in the sky was a security guard for a visiting dignitary. They were confused by what they saw, and so they grabbed binoculars to take a closer look. As they passed them back and forth, One of the men was finding himself growing increasingly drawn to the woman. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't physically do anything to help, and then, as quickly as she arrived, she disappeared, sucked into a waiting spacecraft. Every day that ticked by since that night, the two men had thought about the woman, worrying that she'd fallen to her death, or that she'd been taken away, never to return. And so one in particular began looking around to see who would be the best person to speak to about that situation. That's when they happened to stumble across the ufologist who just so happened to have the woman sitting on his couch. But who were these men, and could they help add some credibility to this story? Or would they make things much worse? Let's find out.
Why is it whenever you add more people to the party, it just turns to shit?
Do you not think? I think so. It's what's the saying? Too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have this dinner. Just like, look, let the diva have her experience. Why are you sprinkling extra chili flakes into this to make it horrible? Piss off.
Is it because it's men and they can't help but get involved? It reminds me of those TikToks that you see when it's like the activity when zero cats is involved and the cats are just like, what are you doing? It's the same.
Look, at the end of the day, you're another day older. And at the end of the day, poor Linda is going to suffer through the hands of these bastards.
Mm-hmm.
All she wanted to do was just get to the root of this alien story. But I'm getting ahead of myself, Nikki.
So to pick back up with the story, let's first have a quick recap. In Lower Manhattan in New York City in the USA, Linda Napolitano, a regular housewife, homemaker, wife and mum of two, had an experience one night that was anything but regular. When she couldn't sleep, she was staring out of her window, which just so happened to be a stunning view of the Brooklyn Bridge, and then she suddenly felt as if she wasn't alone. Suddenly, her whole body was paralysed, with only her eyes being able to move. As she stared into the dark, she saw a small creature staring back at her. It had large, black, almond-shaped eyes and pale grey skin, and it was no taller than 5 feet. The creature telepathically communicated with Linda and told her to be quiet as she was trying to scream, but no noise was coming out. Shh. Next to her in bed, her husband Steve was sleeping soundly. You doing your own soundboard today?
Yeah.
Okay. In an instant, a beam of white light with a blue hue around it came through her bedroom window, and Linda started to float along it. No, Before long, she had passed through her closed bedroom window and was now floating in the sky, 12 stories up and going higher and higher. Then just like that, she was inside an unusual aircraft where the small grey creatures now performed painful medical experiments upon her. They shoved a large needle up her nose and one into her stomach. And then as soon as they were finished with Linda, she felt herself falling back into bed. Immediately after the event, Linda could remember it fully, but as the weeks passed, it felt as if she was getting visitations during the night from these creatures and that they were systematically wiping her memory of the event. Linda went to go and see a doctor because of a painful bump on her nose that had been bothering her since that night, and an X-ray showed she had something implanted inside her nostril that was showing scar tissue. When the doctor asked her to return to have a second X-ray before trying to remove it, the implant had disappeared and all that remained was a cartilage bump, and after this, the memory wiping seemed to become more severe. It's as if the creatures were watching her every move. She eventually told her husband what had happened to her. Well, the bits she could remember. And then she told a friend about it who said she needed to contact a specialist. They'd been reading a book by the author Bud Hopkins, who luckily happened to live in Manhattan. Bud was a ufologist and specialised in abductions, so Linda wrote to him. And before long, she was in his office telling him about her encounter. Bud suggested some hypnosis sessions to try and bring her missing memories back, and Linda accepted his offer. In their first session, Linda recounted everything that happened to her on the 30th of November 1989 in clear and concise detail. Bud was amazed, and further sessions provided even more detail. But it didn't seem like this connection to the creatures was over. Linda still felt telepathically linked, but it seemed Bud's hypnosis could bring back more memories of times even before the abduction, and Linda believed that she'd been abducted multiple times before.
Oh, now it's all coming out.
Now, all of this could have been written off as a wild story, but then Bud receives a letter which cements Linda's memories. Now, let's pick back up in January 1990 in Manhattan, where Bud Hopkins is holding a letter in his hands. It reads, "Dear Mr. Hopkins, my partner and I are police officers. We have been in a serious dilemma because of our strict profession and our lack of knowledge on this subject. On November the 30th, 1989, at approximately 3 a.m., we were on the Brooklyn Bridge when our car stalled. We saw a woman in a white gown being floated out of a 12th floor window by 3 small figures into a large reddish-orange glowing UFO. The craft hovered silently over the East River, then moved off. We were terrified. We didn't know what was happening. We can't live with ourselves for not telling what we saw. Please don't try to find us. Sincerely, police officers Dan and Richard."
Well, I bet Linda is sitting there feeling so vindicated that somebody actually was witness. Because look, it's New York, the city that never sleeps. Somebody must have been awake to witness this because she's out there in the open being gawked at. Somebody would have had to see that. It's not subtle. She's wearing bloody white, like a virgin, touched for the very first time by the aliens. So, yes, she's probably feeling good that somebody has finally come forth, but also she's like, hey, look, I told you. I told you.
Now, Linda's story on its own did seem quite credible, but this letter helped to cement it as genuine. The letter from the police officers, and I'm putting that in inverted commas, provided details which no one could have known apart from someone witnessing the event. Now, fast forward about 18 months, and the whole situation has calmed down. Linda's finally breathing a sigh of relief. It seems the creatures have finally backed off from Linda. She's stopped hypnosis sessions with Bud, and she's returning to life as normal. Well, as normal as it can be. But then one night, Linda is home alone. Steve and her sons are out, and she gets a knock on her apartment door. She opened it, and stood there are 2 men. They say they're police officers and ask to come in to chat with her. They start mentioning the incident, and Linda is flabbergasted because this isn't public knowledge. The men say their names are Dan and Richard, and that they watched Linda be abducted that night, seeing her floating above the Brooklyn Bridge. Linda doesn't know these guys and doesn't know what they want, so she plays everything down. Then one of the officers, Dan, gets emotional. He says that Linda is purposefully hiding things, and she begins to get scared. She asks the men to leave, and they do, but this isn't the last that Linda will see of them. The following day, Linda calls Bud to tell him about the police officers, and Bud confirms these are the same Dan and Richard from the letter he'd received.
Right.
He starts researching to see if he can find these officers, but he works out instead that they're actually special security agents and that they were working with a high-profile political figure. Now, let's zoom out a second here because some of the details in this case are a bit fuzzy, but other researchers have worked out that this high-profile person may have been Javier Perez de Cuellar, UN Secretary General at the time. Now, Bud tracked down Javier and asked him about the incident. Bud says that Javier confirmed he'd seen everything, but said he'd deny everything if he was ever questioned about it publicly. So we only have Bud's words to go on with this one. With this revelation, Bud begins poking around to see if he can find more witnesses, but he doesn't have to do much work because soon he gets more phone calls and letters from different people claiming to have witnessed Linda's abduction. All of this evidence begins to stack up, and Bud thinks he's got something really big on his hands. If he can get all these witnesses together, he has a really compelling case for the most witnessed alien abduction in human history. But he senses something may be up, and that this will not be easy. With the visit from the security officers, it seems that there may be something bigger going on, and so Linda and Bud start talking about what they should do next, because they fear that Linda may be part of a government cover-up.
I don't know where I thought this story was going, but I didn't have Linda being a government guinea pig. After all these years of doing this, I still love that I never see anything really coming.
Mm-hmm.
You're good.
It's not me, it's the story.
Yeah, but you're like...
Yeah, I do a bit of that.
You're fisherman friend with me, you know?
I definitely do a bit of that. So, Linda Napolitano has undergone almost 2 years of weirdness since her abduction.
Poor diva.
And in the winter of 1989, it seems things aren't going to get any better anytime soon. One day, Linda is out running errands in her neighbourhood, and a car pulls up beside her. Then, in an instant, she is grabbed by 2 men and bundled into it. She recognises them instantly. It's the 2 so-called policemen, but actually security agents, Dan and Richard.
She's been abducted again?
Double abduction.
Linda, you can't catch a break.
You cannot catch a break. They drive her around for hours. They question her repeatedly about the abduction, and they seem nervous and paranoid. Richard seems like the calmer of the 2, but Dan seems to be mentally unravelling by it all. Eventually, they drive Linda to a little beach house where they take her inside. It's here that things get very strange because Richard seems to be trying to calm the situation, but Dan seems to be going out of his mind.
Well, there's always a good cop, bad cop.
And in this case, the bad cop is really bad. They tell Linda that they worked out where she lived by tracing her floating body back to her apartment. Dan says he watched her through the binoculars and said that she was so beautiful floating in the night sky that he fell in love with her there and then.
Pervert.
Men really do be just like making up a story in their heads, don't they?
I mean, that's a weird way to go around getting a girl's number.
Yeah.
I saw you get abducted and then I traced your footsteps back to your apartment. Like,
oh, you looked so beautiful in the night sky. It's like, you giant creep, get the fuck away from me.
Weirdo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Oh no, she's way too old for him.
Oh.
Linda is then subjected to more questioning. They ask to see her body so they can check it for marks, and they look at her feet and hands for alien implants. And then the mood switches, and Linda starts fearing for her life. As Richard takes a bathroom break, Dan drags Linda into the bedroom of the beach house and tries to sexually assault her.
Oh.
But she fights him and manages to get away. As she's running down the beach, she doesn't know where to go, so she thinks she'll swim out until they get bored and leave her alone. She crashes into the waves, but soon Dan has caught up with her. He then grabs her neck and shoves her head under the water. In between, he's saying gross things like how much he loves her and how obsessed he is with her. It's all very intense and strange.
What the fuck is wrong with these people?
In a second, Dan's grip loosens on Linda and he falls to the floor. Richard came back from his bathroom break and realised the pair had disappeared, so he followed them outside where he saw Dan trying to drown Linda. He smacked Dan around the back of the head to make him stop. Linda is now really panicking, so she decides that she has to just go along with whatever these men want from her. So she says she'll do whatever they like as long as they take her home. Richard threatens Dan and he backs off. They drive Linda home and now she's safe, but she's scared. Linda calls Bud the following day to tell him what happened, and he insists she files a police report, but Linda isn't so sure. She thinks that would just make things worse, so she decides to let it go. But that wouldn't be the last time Linda would see Richard or Dan.
I dread to think what is going to bring these people back together, for these freaks to come back into her life. Like, if she's like, look, I don't want any more issues. I don't want to file a police report. Let's just keep it moving. What on earth is going to bring them? Is it the aliens? Are they going to bring them back together? Oh, for fuck's sake. I dread to think.
It's just weird, isn't it? Because what do they want from her? They're not, as far as we know, they're not to do with the government. So they're just...
Other than being perverts.
It's just weird. It's just really weird.
Crikey.
A few months go by and Dan and Richard turn up to Linda's apartment again. Linda lets them in, but this time it seems that Linda is the scary one. She doesn't seem to be herself at all. She walks outside onto her fire escape and comes back in holding up a dead fish.
Again, where are these dead fish coming from?
Well, I don't know whether it's the same dead fish, because I don't know.
That'd be rotted by now.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's confusing in the story because the story is confusing.
This is my supper. It's a sea bass. Oh.
In this moment, Dan and Richard hear a sharp noise in their ears, and Linda tilts her head, holds up the fish, and says, "Look at what you've done."
It's like a weird nursery rhyme.
Yeah. Neil, edit in a fish.
Don't give the poor boy any more work.
He doesn't do the edits on this bit. I do this bit. I'm just entertaining him.
Okay.
Edit in a fish. The men then ask her to talk to them. They ask her name and try to make conversation. But it seems Linda herself is not the person they're talking to. They think this is a possession. The creatures who abducted Linda are using her as a conduit to speak to the two security agents.
So she's the walkie-talkie.
Mm-hmm. Richard and Dan are freaked out by this, so they scarp her. But they later write a letter to Bud to explain what happened. Now, you may remember that in episode 1, Linda told Bud she'd found a dead fish on her balcony. So this is a weird coincidence if it's not related to the creatures. With this being another potential alien encounter, Bud wanted to meet these men, but he had no address for them, and so he wasn't able to make contact with them. But as the story started to spread a bit wider, and Bud introduced it to a few new people, they began asking questions, ones he didn't necessarily have the answers to.
I don't think he had them in the first place.
I don't think so either.
Whoopsie.
So it's been a few years since Linda Napolitano was abducted from her bed in Manhattan, but the story still feels very fresh for her. After a few more failed attempts at kidnapping by Richard and Dan, Linda has had enough. Bud still wants to get some more clarity around the case, and he's also been documenting all of this for a book about Linda. So he needs to get some more reliable witness testimonies if he's to make this into something people will read and believe. Bud runs his first draft past his wife, Carol Rainey.
Carol Baskin.
Carol is a skeptic who leans towards wanting to believe in aliens, but she's very critical and rational. Carol starts to pick through Bud's writing and marks out where the sources are missing or where it would be better to meet the person, and soon she's found plenty of holes in Linda's story.
Oh.
Now, even though Carol was Bud's wife, she didn't just side with him. She was sure to be practical when it came to her review. She didn't want Bud to make himself look like an idiot if this turned out to be false and to ruin his whole reputation. Because, she loves this guy. She doesn't want him to look like an idiot.
No, you want the best, and the best is the truth.
So she reviewed the work before it went to print to make sure it was presented in a more critical way. Carol took issue with the letters being anonymous or untraceable. The witness phone calls also being anonymous, the UN officials saying they deny their involvement publicly if questioned, and a bunch of other things which just didn't quite add up. And then there was the recounting of the story by Linda. This was all done under hypnosis, and as we know and have experienced in other cases, regressive hypnosis can cause false memories. So basically, Carol wanted Bud to consider exactly how he presented this story, as even though he thought it was credible, to a skeptic like her, it was holier than Jesus holding a colander whilst wearing socks with holes in them.
Bloody hell, what an analogy. That's quite fabulous.
But the book was still published despite all these good points from Carol, and she was right. As soon as it went on the market, people started picking it apart. Then a few years later, when a little something known as the internet came along, the criticism got even worse. People pointed out all the points Carol had raised: the shaky witness testimonies, which couldn't be verified, the timelines, which chop and change, the ever-changing details, and the letters, which were never proven to be from who they said they were from. But despite the case being very moth-eaten, if these claims could have been backed up and proven, it would make it the most viewed alien abduction ever, which would prove that aliens exist. Now, people have asked why Linda would want to make something like this up. Some say she was still wanting a shot at fame after her dreams of becoming a singer never fully paid off. Others say she was just a bored housewife who dreamed up a story to keep herself entertained. Others say she had a sleep paralysis episode and then hallucinated the rest. But it does seem like a lot to orchestrate to keep up with the story.
Well, yeah, like, as much as you could be bored, I don't have that much time on my hands to be coming up with a whole alien abduction story. You must be really bored to be doing that.
Yeah, and like you said, being a homemaker is a full-time job, so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think she's got that much time on her hands.
Jeez.
One particularly credible witness came from a phone call from a woman called Janet, who said she'd been driving home from a party when she saw Linda disappear into the spaceship. She'd read the book and remembered the incident. Another delivery driver also contacted Bud afterwards as well to say he'd seen Linda floating in the sky.
Is it too early to put in a theory?
I'm putting a theory now.
Do you think Miss Linda is sending these letters in the hopes of getting a second book?
Well, I don't think she necessarily had anything to be gained monetarily from this because it's Bud publishing the book, so...
So she didn't get a cut?
I don't think she was getting a cut, no. I could be wrong, but I don't think she was, no.
Well, damn, I don't think it is her then.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know about this one. I really don't. Jury's
It's bizarre.
Jury's still out. But it seems that like many other abduction stories, this one from Linda follows a similar pattern. It hits a lot of the same notes, and it demonstrates that there is a pattern to a lot of these abduction stories: time slips, medical experiments, and even power outages. And let's face it, if aliens did want to cover their visitations up and they had the technology, they'd definitely use memory deletion to help with that. But what happened next? Well, Bud sadly passed away in 2011 at the age of 80. Linda is now 79 and still alive and kicking. In 2023, a Netflix documentary was made about her case, but Linda decided to sue for defamation after it came out in 2024, but she didn't win. Now, depending on what side you're on, you can either choose to believe Linda and just chalk this up to a confused retelling, but with some really credible chunks to it. Or you can just dismiss it all as a woman who was spurred on by a man who was already convinced by the existence of UFOs. And when the pair met, they created an unending feedback loop. But whatever you believe, you can't deny that this is one hell of a story either way you look at it. The legacy of the Brooklyn Bridge abduction goes against everything we know about alien abduction stories. It's not in a little field in the middle of nowhere. This was in the middle of a huge city where there would be thousands of witnesses. So if Linda did choose to make this up, it's a risky little game to play, because as soon as you start asking questions and no one comes forward to corroborate what you experienced, it all falls down. But we know people did come forward. Do we have the definitive proof that these were real people and not just Linda writing the letters herself?
Cool.
No, but for this case, it simply raises more questions than answers, but you cannot deny that it's a story that has earned its place on the list of weird abduction stories, whether you believe it or not. And so concludes part 2 of Linda Napolitano and the Brooklyn Bridge abduction. Now, I don't want to get your full hot take here, Shez, because I want to save some of it for the spooky sleepover.
Okay.
But out of 10, where are you rating this on the plausibility meter? Do you reckon it's fact or fiction?
At this current time, on Thursday, the whatever date this comes out, I am sitting on a 6.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on a 6. By tomorrow, who knows where I'll be, but I'm currently sitting at a 6. I want to believe. I'm starting to not believe. So I'm just going to be Switzerland in the middle.
Okay. I think
slightly to the fiction.
So I think that's a sensible place to sit with this one because it's not definitive. We don't have all of the proof. And I wish we really did because I feel like if it was just a bit more to back it up, we'd be golden. We'd be like, yeah, aliens exist. The end.
Ta-da.
But it's just not there, is it?
No. And quite frankly, I said it as well earlier, this is the city that never sleeps. I don't think there'll be thousands. I think there'll be like tens of thousands of witnesses, especially that time of night. Imagine me trying to get home from a gig. Yeah. I've just done a show. It's 3:00 in the morning. I would witness it. Imagine all the other people doing the same similar realms of work that I'm doing. Bartenders, taxi drivers. We're all awake. We're all singing. Nikki Drew's editing her podcast. You know,
I wouldn't be seeing it. It would happen right outside the window, and I'd be like, "Wait, cut, cut, cut."
And that's all the bad things I've said. But yeah, I think I need to sit with this and then loop back for the spooky sleepover.
Yeah, I think that's a sensible place to be, and I will give you my hot takes on the spooky sleepover as well. So make sure you join us then.
Kapow! Coming up next time on Killers, Cults and Queens, we will be finding all about the literal fallout of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. So join us next time for a brand new case on Killers, Cults and Queens.
And we want to hear from you. We'll be discussing your thoughts and theories this Friday on the Spooky Sleepover bonus show. So pop us an email at killerscultsqueens@gmail.com.
Or DM us on Instagram at Killers Cults Queens. Leave us a comment on Spotify or YouTube. Or join in the conversation over on Patreon.
Thanks goes to Snag for supporting this series. Please go and support them back at snagtights.com. If you've been affected by any of the themes in this episode, please have a look at the description for lots of helpful resources.
Remember, you can watch our full-length episodes of us in studio over on YouTube and on Spotify, or join in the exclusive community over on Patreon at patreon.com/Killers, Cults, Queens, where you can get our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus content.
See you next time, and don't be a killer or join a cult.
Just be a queen!
Okay, now you can beam us up. Beam us up.
Bye.